Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. You know what? It's always nice. It's always refreshing to talk about a positive and a happy story, especially with all of the nonsense that goes on with Hollywood on a regular basis and all the issues we have. It's nice to hear from a Hollywood actor or an actress who's really out there taking a positive spin, who is invested in the character that they are portraying, invested in the lore behind it, invested in all of the kind of stuff that goes along with it, all of the nuances, understanding the context of things, and just understanding the universe that your character exists on and what their motivations would properly be, and understanding the culture around it. That's always so important. One of the reasons why Henry Cavill is such a big fan, or such a favorite with so many of the fans, why he's such a fan favorite, is because he understands that he is one of us. He is a nerd. He is a geek. He understands it. He is willing to dive into things and understand it. And even if you're not a nerd or a geek, there's a really great example of, I think it was the one of the guys that did Star Trek Next Generation or something like that came in and worked on that, had no idea about Star Trek, knew absolutely nothing to do it. But you know what he did? He did his homework, and for 2 weeks, he watched every single episode of the original series before he started working on the next one. And that's the kind of talent, that's the kind of workmanship, that's the kind of chutzpah that I can really respect, because that's what you do, especially if it's something you don't know anything. It's okay to be involved in a project you know nothing about, as long as you're willing to put in the effort, as long as you're willing to put in the work and understand it and do the research. And boys and girls, for all the things that we can say about Disney's Star Wars is The Acolyte, we have one actor out here that was absolutely willing to do that, who put in the work, who respects the lore, understands the source material, and at the end of the day, respects the fans by doing that. And no, boys and girls, it's not the actress you see on the screen. Trust me, we've got a whole nother video about her coming very shortly, I promise you. But the Acolyte star, Jung-jae, took inspiration from Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn. This is the Jedi he was looking for. Now, you might know the name Jung-jae, and I apologize if I'm messing that up in any way. I'm trying my best. He was one of the hit stars that came off of the Squid Game series, right? Now, I didn't personally watch Squid Game, but I heard a lot of really good things about it. I just haven't watched it. I know it was very successful. We talked about it. It's things like that. But he was one of those guys. Guy didn't really speak English, didn't speak hardly any English at all before he got this role. And boys and girls, he put in the effort. And I have to admit, after watching the first 2 episodes of the Acolyte, not a big fan of the show overall, but his character is the only thing that I have legitimately found interesting. His relationship, the way he treats his Padawans, that kind of father-daughter relationship he's got going on, I love it. And I think he sells it really, really well. The rest of the show, well, that's for another video. But today, boys and girls, for this one, and maybe for this one only, we're going to talk about something positive about Disney Star Wars and an actor actually involved in it. So before we get into this article from entertainmentweekly.com, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe and or follow if you are not already, depending on what platform you are, because we are growing, we are grinding around here, boys and girls, and I could not do that without every single one of you. And leave us a comment down below. Whether you like Disney Star Wars, The Acolyte, or whether you think it's absolute abysmal trash. Let me know what you think about this actor in particular and the work he put in before taking on a role that is in what is arguably one of the most popular franchises in all of Western civilization's history. So let's get into it, and let's get past her. When Jung-jae signed on to play a Jedi Master in Star Wars, he only wanted to focus on one thing: Star Wars. How refreshing is that? Is there anybody else over at Disney that's wanting to focus on Star Wars and Star Wars alone? Maybe they should put this guy in charge of everything. I didn't really want to be influenced by anything outside of the Star Wars world, he tells Entertainment Weekly through an interpreter. Instead, the Squid Game star wanted to immerse himself in a galaxy far, far away to take on his role of Master Soul in The Acolyte, which premiered on June 4th on Disney+. And that's one of the things that you like to hear about that. Obviously, like I said, if you watch the show, his English is pretty good in the show. Like, he's got a little bit of an accent, but the fact that they've got him going through an interpreter is great too, because that makes him much more comfortable, makes him much more relaxed in saying what he was, and he's not having to constantly think about the next word he's couldn't put out there. So I like that. That's good. That's fine. Normally we have issues with interpreters sometimes. I definitely was inspired a lot of the past Jedi Masters and the wonderful actors that played them. And one of my favorite characters was Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson. And who wouldn't say that? Whatever issues you might have with the prequels, whatever problems you have with the story, or whatever issues you have with it, you cannot deny that Liam Neeson was an absolutely phenomenal Qui-Gon Jinn Master Jedi. He just nailed that. Really, I think it was honestly a little bit of a mistake by Lucas. I understood what the story was going and everything else, but man, wouldn't it have been nice if Qui-Gon lived. Wouldn't it have been nice if Qui-Gon lived? And I love those theory videos out there, that the storytellers out there that you guys come up with. You're so creative. Come up with those theory videos, talk about like what happened if Qui-Gon Jinn, would Anakin have still turned? I love those things. You guys keep those up. Those are great. But yeah, understandably so. Who wouldn't? And I mean, come on. Outside of like Obi-Wan Kenobi in his older age, could you have think of a better Jedi Master? Maybe Yoda, but even then Yoda's got his quirks. I mean, outside of Qui-Gon Jinn, who else would you want to imitate? As far as what we've seen in live action, obviously the books, the EU, and yes, it is still the expanded universe. The EU obviously is filled with a bunch of examples, but I'm just saying, like in live action, this is a great example because obviously he didn't have time to read through the entire EU. I really kind of tried to find the connective tissues between him and my character, Master Soul. And I think that's a great comparison. Like I said, I really do enjoy the character of Master Soul. He might end up getting screwed over by the show, but we're trying to be positive right now. So that reference to the wise yet headstrong Qui-Gon Jinn perhaps offers the biggest clue yet in terms of what sorts of Jedi Soul will be while navigating a new threat to the tale at the end of the High Republic. And while stoicism a trait of many Jedi, it was Soul's emotional range that attracted the actor to the project. He is a Jedi Master, but the more I saw the script, I realized that there were more of these humanistic elements to him. His emotions are constantly in flux. And also, when he's in battle, he actually does feel that element of fear. And I think because of that, showrunner Leslie Headland really created a Soul that was extremely humanistic. And she did that with the other characters as well. They all embody such a diversity of emotions, just like regular people. And in each character, you see those elements really clearly. He's probably given a little more credit where credit is due, but hey, we're trying to stay positive here. One other element of the production that Lee particularly enjoyed was the lightsaber and fight training, even if he did consider himself a little advanced for some of it at the start. I've actually done a lot of action in my previous projects in Korea. So when I entered the 2 months of training camp, I noticed that the fight choreographers, they started teaching for the basics. And part of me was like, oh, I kind of know all of this already. The fruit of that labor, however, he was eventually revealed. But then I realized that as the training continued, those basics that were practiced over and over again, it really helped me doing these stunts and the fight choreography on set. And his stuff has done really well. He looks very believable in the role. I mean, honestly, if there is a decent compliment that I can give for the show, the fight choreography is well done. Does a lot of it look like it's a ripoff of The Matrix? Yes, but it is still well done. It's a lot better than some of the fight choreography we saw in the Ahsoka series as well, because some of it was rough. So at least they've improved that aspect of things. But once again, like I said, it all feels like it's a ripoff of The Matrix. So both the choreography and the humanistic elements will find full source, So like I said, this isn't super long. This isn't a whole lot. But like I said, this guy didn't even speak English before he took on this role. Not only did he bust his butt to dig into the lore and understand a character that he could find, that he could represent, that he could try to show on screen, but he was willing to bust his butt to learn English fluently enough to where he could deliver these lines in a very believable way. Outside of having a little bit of an accent, I would have no way of knowing that English wasn't his first language. He's done an incredible job. And honestly, he's one of the only bright spots in the entire Acolyte series so far. Given we're only 2 episodes in, I hear things are going to get a lot worse. But needless to say, he's a bright spot in the show. So if for nothing else, I appreciate this. I respect Lee Jung-jae for the fact that unlike so many other people out there in Hollywood, he was willing to put in the effort. He was willing to put in the time. He was willing to try to understand the lore. He was willing to try to find a character he could relate to. And he wanted everything to be all about Star Wars. As a Star Wars fan, as somebody who grew up with this stuff as a kid, what more could any of us want? We just want Disney Star Wars to be Star Wars. So shout out Lee Jung-jae. Shout out for respecting the lore. Shout out for wanting it to all be about Star Wars, because trust me, that's all the fans want too.